We're responsible for all security for all the organizations on the base, facilities, infrastructure, and basic mission support. Our mission support is to more than 45 agencies, some of them very large agencies on base, like Defense Logistics Agency, the Air Force Flight Standards Agency, 43 others, not to include the 4 other wings. We have the 448 Supply Chain Management Wing, the 552nd Air Control Wing, the Strategic Communications Wing 1 of the Navy, and the 507th Air Refueling Wing. All 3 of which have alert commitments, which are pretty heavy. And all of that probably comes in underneath the depot operations, which is the Air Force's largest depot, the Oklahoma City Air Logistics Complex. And we have headquarters, Air Force Sustainment Center. So other than that, we don't have a lot to support. What was interesting was I got to be on station for about 10 months, assigned over at the Air Logistics Complex as the vice commander. So I came into Oklahoma City on 23 July of last year, so that was nice to have that spool up. Also had some time with the exiting wing commander, Colonel Kenyon Bell. A lot of turnover time, so it made the transition easier than I think it would be otherwise. Before coming to Oklahoma, I was the maintenance group commander at Ramstein, the 86th MXG at Ramstein, with the C-130Js as the only tactical airlift for 2 theaters, so that was kind of challenging, but also the operational support airlift for DV transport and dignitary transport. So I was in charge of that. It was a fascinating position. Before that, we won't go back very far, it's been 35 years. Before that, I was blessed to be at Fort McNair in DC at National War College. Well, there's a really acute issue with facilities through the privatized housing project, which is a problem that we have multi-phases to it, right? We went through a phase about 6 months ago when actually closed a chapter recently in July, where all of the safety and health issues identified by the Secretary of the Air Force, 100% inspection of privatized housing, all 243 of those issues were driven to zero. We have a new state of nature, a second chapter, where we're looking at new houses, or not new houses, but new problems with houses, and old recurring problems. They're taking a long time now to remediate because the contractor has so many steps in the remediation process, intended to restore confidence in the residents, but instead taking too long and further eroding that confidence. We're working that hard right now, looking at processes and resources and how to be in front of that. That's probably the primary challenge of many, because that's the safety, health, and welfare of our workforce. We've done a 100% dormitory review. We've done a 100% lodging review. And so we're hitting all those on all fronts. We have major depot operations requirements increases that we're looking at what can we do from a facilities and property perspective to make the best use of the Tetris pieces, because the requirements are going so high, because the Oklahoma City complex is in high demand, and the bomber fleet is in a state where it needs a lot of AOC attention. So just a couple of challenges. The joys are the people. Ever since I took the position about 65 days ago, I have just been blown away by the quality and the investment of the entire workforce. So the KC-46 campus is a pretty dramatic campus. It's, if you remember, the building 3001 was a Douglas manufacturing plant that was then converted for a number of purposes as we went through the depot operations. Probably the Air Force's epitome of smooth machined depot operations in terms of how they conduct their business. But a lot of people who haven't been here don't know they take off the tail to use 3001. And what we have with the KC-46 is a purpose-driven campus for KC-46. It's going to have multiple facilities that have multiple uses, because you have unique facilities for corrosion, you have neat facilities for fuels. We'll have facilities that are for corrosion and for fuels and for both. allowing for the kind of flexibility the depot hasn't had in the past and planning for that up front. So that's an exciting prospect, and we'll be ready facilities-wise for the first C letter checks to come in on the KC-46. On B-21, we were announced as the site for B-21. We have a Plan A and a Plan B on site layouts. We only have to make a decision by 2026 in terms of not where it's sited, but when we start ground and what the contracts are. So a lot of time to work on that, but not a lot of time if we don't work on it now. So we're working on it every single day, getting in front of the two options, and we expect that by this time next year we'll have it absolutely ironed out and where that goes. But we're looking at a dramatic increase in what this base is postured to support. I call Tinker the leverage point of American Air Power because of what it provides from the depot operations and from the multi-service alert commitments that they have. I can't see any other place being more important. You know, we can talk about the economic impact of the depot being over $34 million a year. We can talk about the different numbers of what Tinker means to the community, but I can't really speak to that. The community will speak to Tinker's importance to the community, but I can tell you the community's importance to Tinker. In almost 35 years, a couple months I'll have hit 35 years. I'm prior enlisted, almost 13 years, senior NCO. That's how old I am coming into the job. But in that time, I've had 16 assignments, multiple temporary duties and deployments. I've never been anywhere where the community was so supportive of their installation. Nothing comes close. I'm glad I'm having the interview just to say that I've never been anywhere. And it's not a lieutenant or a lieutenant colonel. It's a prior service colonel, wing commander who's been to a lot of places. So I think there's some credibility there. This is number one. That said, it's on a number of fronts. It's how the businesses treat the military members at what I call the point of execution. That's spectacular. But then the legislative support is off the charts. The community supports, the chambers of commerce support, everything is geared towards helping our members, and it's just noticeable. It's unlike any place I've seen. So I'm not going to speak to our impact on the community. Sure. I will say that it's our goal to pull our fair share. Well, that depends on, obviously it's going up, right? Obviously it's going up. But the numbers of how many jobs and when will remain in flux. But I can tell you that the requirements for what the Oklahoma Air Logistics Complex has to accomplish, they're going up. And we are getting that work here at Tinker. That's not including the KC-46, and we're getting that work at Tinker. And the B-21s, we're getting that work. All of that is spread over the course of 15 to 25 years as we go up, but it's a very promising upward curve that I think everybody should look forward to. The numbers, I don't really want to speak to the numbers for the Air Logistics Complex, but I can speak to just software alone and the software engineering group and the growth of that business that's been more than 8% a year in terms of employment. And what's really, we want to say STEM is crucial, right? So that what a lot of people don't understand is the amount of engineers that we have employed at Tinker Air Force Base. And all of the colleges and universities in the entire state of Oklahoma can't graduate enough just to service Tinker Air Force Base if we could get them all. And so the community needs to know the market is there. The market will keep going up. And what would be great is if we get in front of that eventually in Oklahoma with an aerospace industry and an aerospace education, which I think the state is really leaning towards hard. I think it'll be unstoppable. Well, it's funny you would ask that question given that I came here from Germany, from Ramstein, the Bavaria dream location. We traveled to other countries almost daily. Not almost daily, almost weekly. On the weekends, we would drive into Luxembourg, we'd drive into Switzerland, we'd go into Austria, just to explore the countryside. And they're different countries, and it is gorgeous. It was the family and I spent more than 30 years wanting to get to Germany. So I'll say it on camera, to have Oklahoma City as the next assignment was not something we were jumping up and cheering for. It was great, we'll go, it's awesome, we're blessed because of the position. And maybe an hour or 2 hours into driving into town, we liked it. And it's because of the people. We liked it because of the people. What I said earlier, that the welcome you get as a military member, as a uniform wearer, I've never seen anything more patriotic than Oklahoma City. And then discovering how much there is to see and do, and just great. It blew us away. So that probably a couple months into my tour, we were talking about potential retirement in the area, because Oklahoma City brings it, and the communities all around. Yes.
Sure.
What I can say is what's on the horizon, there's a lot of efforts going on with energy. What the public may not know is that over the last 4 or 5 years, we have exceeded the federal government's now alleviated requirements. We stepped to the original requirements on reducing energy consumption 2.5% a year. We've exceeded that. The Air Logistics Complex was the #1 consumer of energy in the Air Force. I can't remember if it was the Department of Defense, but I know it was the Air Force, and dropped down. Now, they dropped down to 4, meaning they're not consuming near as much energy as they consume, while more work got done. The production hours have gone up like that, while the energy usage has gone down. Not remained constant with an increase in production, but they've gotten both. And we have this energy savings performance contract that is $625 million over 20 to 25 years. And we're extending that performance contract for a fence-to-fence kind of thing. So from an energy perspective, we're looking at being better stewards of taxpayer dollars in kind of a groundbreaking way. The real employment machine and community, give and take support machine, given jobs, comes from the depot. So I don't like to do these interviews and put all of the attention on the depot, but from a community perspective and the way forward, it has to be depot-centric. And so with that, Congress initiated the Organic Industrial Base study. We are looking here at Tinker and that's kind of my responsibility as the installation commander, looking at the depot of the future. And we have laid in the layers of the KC-46. We have layered in already where the B-21 is best plan A, where it's best plan B. We're looking at some very creative financing options to try to robust what we offer on the south side of the base, given that work population in 9001, 9201, the 2 giant old GM facilities, and the KC-46 campus are better serviced. So we have a lot going on. It's just that so much of it is so preliminary, and then the laying in of funding for that is still preliminary, that I don't like to really speak to too much specifics, but it's big. I think everybody I'd like to think everybody will look back on 2019, 20, 21, and 22 as a new golden era of depot operations in Tinker Air Force Base.
One last thing for you. As a nearly 35-year veteran, why should someone now, one of our young men or women coming out of high school or coming out of college, why should they consider the Air Force or the military in general as a career path?
You're asking, that's a trick question to ask a father. So my daughter's, she did not go into the military, but she was that close. And I told her, it's not important to me that you go into the military. It's important to me that you look in the mirror knowing that you're doing positive for society, because those are the jobs that last a lifetime and let you feel good on the back porch at 90 that you've had it. And what I call it is an effects-based life. If you can generate a life that's effects-based instead of accumulation-based and power-based and what our society sometimes gets caught up in doing, have an effects-based life. And so she's in a PhD program in molecular microbiology. Wow. So service to society and research and medical profession, right? My son wants to go into the Air Force, but it's a torn as to whether he wants to do that or be a police officer. And I said either one is fine, because both are look in the mirror, know that you're doing good for society. And so that's what I would tell the young folks who want to maybe come into the military. Defending your nation and our way of life is a higher calling. It is a noble profession, and no matter how hard, every day you'll be able to look in the mirror knowing that you defended my family and that I'm helping defend yours. It's a camaraderie like nothing they'll know.